Before we continue with the analysis, I want to talk to you guys about JerseyFIFA.com, the home of all of the greatest football kits. Whether that's the latest home shirts, the latest away shirts, tracksuits, or even retro kits, Jersey FIFA has a bit of everything. There really is something for everyone, so if you are interested, then make sure to use the link in the description down below and head to JerseyFIFA.com.
Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where once again we are back with Manchester United match coverage. This time a big 2-1 win over Crystal Palace in the Premier League. A really important result, obviously, because of certain circumstances in the game, and I think overall Ten Hag will be really pleased with what he saw in terms of performance. I thought for the first half in particular, United looked really good, so let's talk about some of the tactics which we saw and why I was so impressed by the way that they played. And it started in the first half with Crystal Palace being very passive, not really influencing the ball too much, making it quite easy for United to progress the play from the back. Now, you'll just have to excuse my voice, I'm full of cold, but not much we can do about that. But yeah, let's talk about the tactics. And like I said, Palace were quite passive, and they sat off quite in a narrow 4-2-3-1 shape, and let the Manchester United centre-backs have the ball. And I think their game plan actually became quite clear very early on. So like I said, Varane and Lisandro Martinez were given this ability to step forward with the ball, and the reason that this was able to happen was because Crystal Palace actually played with a front two at times defensively. But the problem is that they were so narrow, because they were so focused on stopping Casemiro from getting on the ball. So sometimes Elise would join Edouard, and typically this could be a problem for United, because they could go 2 for 2 versus the centre-backs and make it quite difficult. But they weren't really interested in doing that, and instead they wanted to kind of stop the ball getting into Casemiro, because we know how much Casemiro dictates play for United. But what this meant was that the United centre-backs then had this room outside of the two strikers to step forward with the ball, which was something that Rafa Varane in particular really looked to do down this side of the pitch, stepping out here. And what this then does is it forces Ayew and Schlupp to come narrower, because if Varane is being given his freedom to step forward because the striker isn't pressing him, and if the winger then stays wide, Varane can step all the way through the pitch, so the Palace wingers then have to tuck narrower to stop this further progression. But what this means is that the Manchester United fullbacks out wide, which we know they like to play in these areas, then had much more room. For me, this was a bit of a weird approach from Crystal Palace. Now, I get the idea behind it, stop Casemiro getting on the ball, he's very good at dictating the play, so hopefully you therefore stop Manchester United. The problem is, the Manchester United fullbacks are also a big part of the way that United play. So by giving them this easy progression out wide, it made it very easy for United to get the ball moving forward very early on in the game. And with Schlupp and Ayew now at a disadvantage, being put that yard behind but also inside, United could bring the ball forward and create overloads in these wide areas. And what I enjoyed was the fact that United had balance on both sides of the pitch. We saw Bruno Fernandes drifting to this right half space much more than what he normally does, whilst Fred was doing it on the left hand side. Yes, they could rotate in certain situations or both be on one side, but in general, the balance was quite nice. And what this led to was good combinations in these wide areas, and I really like the understanding which is developing between Antony and Wan-Bissaka. Now yes, again, the final product isn't quite there at the moment from the two of them, we do need to see a bit better in that sense. But the runs that Wan-Bissaka is making to just cause that hesitation in a defender, allowing Antony to then come inside and link up with players like Bruno Fernandes, is actually really impressive. And of course we also saw something similar on the other side of the pitch as well, with Luke Shaw and Marcus Rashford. We know that if you're going to give Shaw time in these areas, he's going to do one of two things. He's either going to drive into that space because he's a very good ball carrier, or he's going to play it into someone else because, again, he's a good passer. And again, this link-up with him and Rashford has been good for several years now, and it continued to show in this game. Their ability to play 1-2s with Shaw making driving runs off the ball is really impressive. This is actually what we saw in the build-up to the first goal. Shaw gets the ball in this area, it goes to Rashford eventually, and then Shaw makes the underlapping run into this area, and then basically has a couple of crosses and an eventual handball, but it all comes because of this willingness from the fullbacks to make forward runs into these areas. The other good thing for United was that they could also create overloads in the middle of the pitch, because again this Palace front two were quite passive. Once United had gone wide, they could then go back inside the pitch. So if Antony got the ball here and then came inside, they then got behind the Palace forwards, meaning that by going past Palace and then coming back again, you could then get Casemiro on the ball in much more space. And again, as I keep saying, Casemiro is so important to the way that United play, so important to the way that they dictate possession. And again, by doing this, by going forward but then coming back inside, they were able to get him in much more room. And then with Bruno Fernandes roaming about and Fred roaming about in these areas, United had ball progression pretty impressively sorted in all three sides of the pitch, if you like. Down the left-hand side with Shaw and Rashford, down the right-hand side with Varane and Wan-Bissaka and also Antony, but also through the middle with Casemiro, Fred and Fernandes. For me, in the first half, it looked really balanced. Of course, as the half progressed, this kept forcing Palace further and further back because they're now trying to defend these spaces, they're getting exploited. What I liked was the way that United rotated the ball from side to side. So what we've seen in the past, in previous seasons, but also earlier this season, is United might get into this area and just chuck a hopeless cross into the box when there's not really anyone to aim for. But that wasn't the case in this game. Instead, United would recycle possession and go back out the other side. And what was quite good was that when the ball went backwards, this would typically be a pressing trigger for Palace to then go put the pressure on. What we would see was the opposite fullback dropping deeper, then creating a back three for United up against a Crystal Palace front two. So that was really clever. So when the ball comes backward, the fullback drops in. Now you create a 3 versus 2. So if Palace do choose to try and squeeze you, United have the extra man. And now you've pulled Palace apart again. And then once again, you can progress the ball through the lines and create these overloads in wide areas. In the first half, it was really sharp play from United. And it was very much Ten Hag ball. We also saw it in the second half, of course, for the goal as well. By which time, Weghorst had come off. Garnacho had come onto the left wing. Marcus Rashford was up top. This second goal, make sure to go watch it if you haven't already, was really Ten Hag ball. Now, what we were talking about before the season even started, I'd done a video talking about 5 things that you could expect from Ten Hag. One of the things we were speaking about was building the ball down one side of the pitch. If you can't work the cross or you can't work an opportunity, you're patient, you come backwards, recycle the ball, go to the other side, and then look for cutbacks. That is exactly what we saw for the second goal. Unfortunately, I can't show it to you guys for copyright reasons, but we saw the ball being played down this side. United come inside, they realise it isn't working down this side of the pitch. They come inside, Garnacho gets the ball in this area, Shaw makes the forward run, the ball eventually gets to Luke Shaw, who carries it forward, and then there's a cutback to Marcus Rashford. And like I said, that really is perfect Ten Hag football. That is exactly how he wants to play. And I thought for 60 minutes, this was a really good Manchester United performance. Really well balanced, creating chances. Of course, they got a penalty early on, which makes a change. But we won't speak on that. We won't speak on referees, I don't think, for this particular video, for certain reasons. And yeah, like I said, United were really comfortable at this stage in the game. For me, playing some of the most balanced and complete football that they've played this season. It was a really, really good performance. Pulling Palace apart, like I said, progressing down the left-hand side, down the right-hand side, but also through the middle. But of course, there was a spanner to be thrown into the works, and that was the Casemiro red card. So that red card, which I don't even want to talk about, because I cannot be bothered to talk about the referee's performance in this particular game, because it's just not worth my breath, basically. But of course, a red card like that is going to invite the pressure on, and it gives Crystal Palace that invite to come forward and really pile the pressure on. Soon after that, they got their first goal to make it 2-1 via a bit of a lucky deflection. However, you kind of make your own luck in those situations. But it now got them into these forward areas they were putting the pressure on. Ten Hag makes several changes. Lindelof comes on at right wing back, Harry Maguire comes on at centre back, so United go to a back 5. We then saw Sabitzer, Fred and Fernandes in midfield, with Rashford up top. And at this stage, United are 2-1 down with 10 minutes to go, but also another 7 minutes of injury time, I believe it was. And I'm sitting there saying, United are probably going to concede here, because we've seen this script, if you like, so many times over the past few seasons. United play good football, they don't quite kill the game, something silly happens, they concede a deflected goal, and then eventually go on to drop points in the game. And I was so sure that that was going to happen again. However, this is a Ten Hag team, this is slightly different to what we've seen in the past few seasons, and I thought the togetherness in the latter stages, it's not massively tactical, of course, you've just gone to a more defensive shape, but I thought the performance and the mentality of these players was absolutely brilliant. Old Trafford was absolutely bouncing, Rashford was tracking back in all sorts of areas, the energy of Fred, Sabitzer and Bruno Fernandes, Sabitzer, to be fair, came on and had a good 20-minute spell, good debut, but Fred and Fernandes, again, the energy that they brought to the team, and then the defending at the back. Lisandro Martinez in particular, but also Rafa Varane deserves a lot of credit, but this man here, Lisandro Martinez, was absolutely incredible. Produced one of the best defensive displays in that last 45 minutes that you will see in any league this season. He was absolutely phenomenal. I'm seeing him out-jump Mateta in the air, which, you know, Lisandro Martinez is meant to be too short. He isn't too short. It's an absolute load of waffle. This guy is absolutely phenomenal, and yes, you can see Casemiro there in the background. He's made a big difference to Manchester United this season, but so has Lisandro Martinez, so has Rafa Varane. The defence is so much better under Ten Hag, and like I said, there was a real togetherness in those last stages. United, it weren't anything tactical. Like I said, you switched to the back 5, which is a fairly obvious sub to make. You get as many tall players on as possible, with Lindelof, Maguire, Varane, and also another centre-back in Lisandro Martinez. You've got 4 centre-backs on the pitch. You try and defend your box, because you know what Palace want to do. United were brilliant, and they also still showed attacking intent as well. United were happy to put the ball in these channels. Rashford chased them brilliantly, and then the rest of the team would get up to try and support him. And it actually didn't even look like United were going to concede. They were that good defensively, and it all was because of a mentality shift. We've seen United crumble in these situations in the past, but they didn't. They stuck together, put in a real shift. The energy levels that we saw in the last 15 minutes or so were absolutely phenomenal, and it got United over the line, and it got them a really deserved 2-1 win, but a massive win in a weekend where Chelsea have dropped points, Liverpool have dropped points, Arsenal have dropped points, Newcastle have dropped points. This was a massive win. Manchester United had to win to kind of open a gap a little bit in the top 4, and they done that with a really good performance. For me, we saw different elements of this United team: their ability on the ball, their possession play, but also that grit and determination in the latter stages as well. We also did see a different pressing shape, which I haven't got time to talk about in this video because I've got other stuff to do. However, if you would like to see a separate video on that, on United's new pressing shape, let me know in the comment section down below. But apart from that, thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.